Just testing out a few things here. Getting ready, rolling. Halftime, midweek. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through your work week. Hanging out here. It's Cody Jans and Zach Medeiros on 12-ounce sports. Meds and Jans. Going to talk a lot of playoff hockey. We even got some good news coming out east. And I'm rarely one to say nice things about Quebec. So, hey, when that happens, you know it's going to be a good day. Let's sauce it over to Meds. What's going on, buddy?
Buddy, I've been doing great. I've been looking forward to this week. Obviously, the playoffs just kicked off. There's a tons to talk about. Really want to get into that Sam Bennett hit too. I had to double take that probably 10 times, just be like, what the hell is he thinking? But man, before we get to anything, I'm digging this background and I love that intro music. I was kind of curious coming into this episode to see where you were at with it, and man, that was clutch. You came through big there.
Hey, see, you know what? Had to test out some World Hockey Report things.
Yeah.
I just wanted to play around. Shout out to our guy, Jeff Beck. You know, he went big for us. He likes what we're doing. He's a believer of everything that we've been doing. He supported us the whole way. So, yeah, I mean, hey, if he's going to, up his game, we're going to up our game. And it'll be better next week. I promise you. We'll have our own stuff. We'll be rocking and rolling too. Just like World Hockey Report. Little ahead, little help there on that side of things. But again, This is where I can really come, and as bad as it sounds, I don't have to be as prepared. I feel like we can really just, shoot the shit a little bit, kind of talk about whatever. It's not as scripted by any means.
Just let it fly.
That's what I like about it. It's fun.
Yeah. And I also want to point out here, right before we get started, is that the technique that we have of drinking champagne or beer, mine was champagne and beer, I think. I'm not sure what you're drinking there. Probably some sort of alcohol. You probably don't remember that night too much, but the technique we have there is pretty spot on.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because I know I've seen that. It was might have been your Instagram or somewhere where I seen it and stole it from. And I was like, hey, anytime you win a championship, if you don't get that picture, come on, you're losing out. You got to get a picture like that. Your cup's a little cooler than the Northeast League, but still, what a night.
Well, you know what? And to kind of touch on the Grey Cup, I assume, have you ever seen it like in person up close? Have you ever held the Grey Cup?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How, and let's be honest, it is a bit chintzy, isn't it? I mean, am I the only one who kind of feels that way from the nicks and bruises that it's faced over the years? It's been taped up too. I think after the 2014 Grey Cup, I don't know if it's Rob Maver or like someone else who actually dropped it, and then they actually had to put it back together and hold it in place, like the top part of the trophy, and they're like holding it. But they're making sure it's in place so it doesn't fall off. And this is like national television that Calgary wanted that year. And you can tell it's a little bent out of shape there. So it's been through the ringer over I think the century that it's been around.
If you think the Grey Cup is taped together, man, look at the Memorial Cup in Major Juniors. That thing gets broken every year. Oh yeah.
I can imagine, yeah.
It's got such like a thin, it's tiny up top. Every year gets broken. I swear, it's wild.
Well, man, and I don't know what they actually plan to do with that trophy, because like it's starting to run out runway now with that trophy. Like there's like so many layers they're adding to it. Even when we won it in Ottawa, I was like, man, they're gonna have to like extend more wood or something to kind of keep this going. But at some point, you have to kind of just wrap it up and get like a new version of the Grey Cup and just take all those little metal pallets off and then just place it on there, because it is starting to look a little chintzy.
How many years has the Grey Cup been going on? I have no clue.
Man, it's been like, it's over 100 for sure.
105?
Something like that, yeah. I know the OUA trophy, so, for listeners who don't know the OUA, so the Ontario University Football League there. Theirs is actually, I think theirs is the oldest trophy in North America. The Yates Cup, that's the oldest one. And that one's actually nice. That's a very well-kept trophy. So, I mean, if a university one can keep up to date and keep it looking fresh and sharp for, annually whenever a team wins it, I think the Grey Cup, especially a league that you're making money in, should be able to do the same.
Yeah, that's is the OUA older than the Allen Cup? I always thought the Allen Cup was the oldest one.
Which one's the Allen
AAA
Cup
hockey.
again?
Senior AAA hockey.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
I thought that was like the oldest Canadian championship. I could be wrong though.
It could be. Don't hold me to that. Just, I thought I heard that from a few reliable sources, but it also could be wrong.
Okay, can we get into a little bit of what your night was like? I mean, with the Grey Cup, I mean, what did you guys do? Where did you win it? Was it in Edmonton?
No. So it was in Toronto. It was at BMO Field.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, and the weather was incredible too that night. It was like November 26th or 27th. It was towards the end of that month, and it was like 10 degrees going into it at nighttime, dude. It was perfect weather for the Grey Cup. And then I don't remember much of the game, the celebration after the fact. I don't remember too much of that. I remember that we stayed at the Hilton in downtown Toronto, and in the basement of the hotel is when we had the party, and obviously family members and friends kind of came together. Some guys went on their own. My girlfriend at the time, she kind of had to take care of me because I was completely out of it. And safe to say, man, so first thing in the morning, and I don't know why these guys are going to get absolutely pickled tonight. They made the flight back home to Ottawa for like 8 a.m. And I was like, oof, like I'm going to be really towing the line, trying to wake up for that time or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? Worst case scenario, I just take a bus back or figure out a way to get back. And I remember waking up, the PR guy's calling me. He's like, hey, where are you? Where are you? And I'm like, at this point, it's like 8:30. And I'm like, oh shit. And I wake up. My girlfriend's like, oh, do you need a ride or whatever? I'm like, no, like whatever. I'll try to figure it out. So and I'm talking to him like, dude, like, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not going to make it, man. I'm still here. I'm feeling like shit. I'm going to figure out my own way back. And he's like, don't worry about it. Like, when you win a championship, it makes things a lot more easier and a lot less stressful. So he just said, you along with other like 20 guys are making this flight. So don't worry about it. So I ended up just taking a train back.
The CFL guys and like football guys in general, do you guys have a bender week after the season? Is that just a hockey thing, or is that football as well? Where like after you're done, the next 4 or 5 days are just all write-offs, and it's kind of like, well, probably won't have this team together ever again. And if you're a close group, it's just full throttle.
You have to make the most, man. It was definitely full throttle. So it doesn't go on as long as like Stanley Cup playoffs. Like after you win that, it's like I feel like it's like a 3-month thing. Like you're half your off season just like celebrating with the cup, and like training goes out the window, and you're kind of late catching up that way. For us, we had a few days off after we won. I think it was like we won on the 26th, and then on December 2nd or 3rd were exit meetings. So with that like 4 or 5 day period, it was just full throttle partying with the Grey Cup. We had our own town parade too, which like 40,000 people came out to in Ottawa. So that was really cool to see. And man, I like, I'm not like a huge drinker, but that week was a complete write-off for me.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to do that though, because if you don't enjoy the great moments in your life, what are you doing?
Well, and it's like you said, it won't be the same team, especially with the league like the CFL, where it's like really condensed and recycled with the athletes it has in the league. Again, you're not going to be with that same team going into next year, and that was the truth. Like I'd say 20 guys from that roster moved on to, some guys had NFL opportunities, other guys went back to arena football for whatever reason, and other guys, and then you obviously lose guys at the trades and wanting more money. And
did anyone not make it out of the dressing room?
Oh man, no.
No. Okay, well that's impressive. There's usually a couple of guys that go way too hard on the champagne, and when your body's tired, maybe you haven't drank that much during the season, sometimes it just KOs you.
Well, dude, they want us out of there because we were staying in the Toronto FC locker room. That's where we got changed. It's a bit more space in there, and like they obviously had like tape everything down, because there's gonna be beer flying. It didn't matter if it was us or Calgary that night who won it. And man, it was a shit show in there. Like alcohol, it smelled. Honestly, it reeked of like BO and beer by the end of it. So I think at the end, like the maintenance crew came in and said, "Hey guys, like you guys have spent like 2 hours in here afterwards. Like congrats, whatever. But you have to keep this moving. Like go to that hotel party, whatever it is, because we gotta start cleaning this up. And the longer you guys stay in here, like the longer it's gonna be for us." So yeah.
How bad does it smell, though, after all the champagne showers on your dirty gear? It's disgusting.
Oh, gross, man. It's disgusting, dude. Like, even my own family was, like, kind of embarrassed to hug me afterwards because, like, I was just, like, doused in alcohol, like, BO, like, hugging, like, everybody in that stadium probably. So it was just, like, go do your thing, but we're probably going to come to the party for a little bit and then go home. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably a good idea.
What a way to start the show. All right, we got a lot of playoff talk to get to as well. And one of the best series, in my opinion, Tampa, Florida.
Oh yeah,
And you
I'm all over
gotta touch on this Bennett hit because I don't even know what side you're on. I think it's a brutal hit.
Yeah.
Brutal. Like there's no way in his mind he thought that was a smart play to make in playoffs.
No. And you know
you
what?
can't do that.
No, you can't, man. And it's like, you know what? Those are the hits. Like, again, I think we were on the same page with the whole Tom Wilson incident because he was just trying to like stand up for himself because a guy jumped on his back, right? And so often he's guilty of bad hits, right? But not that time. You look at the Sam Bennett one, that's the hit that you want to completely eliminate from hockey. The guy took like a good 4 or 5 strides. And if you really slow it down too, he leaves his feet. He had full intention. You know what? He saw that Coleman's back was turned to the puck. He didn't give a shit about that. He just leaned into him, and that's the hit. You see that, and you're like, man, you're lucky that you only got one game from that because that could have been like a full series sussy right there, right? So I think he kind of got the hook a little bit. And yes, I understand that Meg done his hit earlier in the game on Duclair, I believe it was a bit dirty as well, but you can kind of tell he didn't really. Again, the game's so fast, right? So that one I'm able to let up the hook a little bit more because McDonough doesn't really play that. He's not that style of player, right? He plays hard and he plays till the whistle, but just based off that hockey play, and if you're a good hockey mind, you can kind of understand, okay, you know what? Sometimes shit happens, and he just had his back turned last second, and he just got, the bad end of the stick. It was a bad result on his end of that, but yeah, the Sam Bennett one, man, was brutal. Like the amount of strides he took into that, he was purposely trying to just smash that guy's head into the boards.
That's you gotta lay off. It's selfish. It's stupid. And honestly, it hurts the Panthers with him out. Yeah. So it's fully a selfish play. It's like when Kadri was getting suspended all the time in playoffs. He's such an effective player when he's playing that you can't take stupid penalties and suspensions like that. Also, shout out Jeff is pumping your tires in the chat. Said Med's a dope haircut there. So he thinks you're looking fresh. I agree. Hey, that works out. I think Jeff won a national championship or a championship at the D2 football level in the States.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Jeff, if you're still watching, hit us up with some stories. Always down to hear about, championship stories there. We're talking Tampa, Florida, and Florida's down 2-0 in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa's going to sweep them, aren't they? They're going back home. They're buzzing, and Florida's got nothing.
Yeah, that game one was so paramount for them, especially when they got to a 2-goal lead, right? And just they kind of touch on Sam Bennett again. This wasn't some just rule guy that they picked up at a deadline. If there's anyone who needed a serious change of scenery, it was him. You look at a guy coming out of junior. He was a former 4th overall pick, right? And he kind of seemed like he had 15 points in 10 games. He started play to the potential that NHL scouts had him pegged for. Right. And then you take a guy like that out of lineup who's been fitting in so well with that team. They kind of need him for every game, and just losing him for game 2 really hurt. And you saw it. Tampa took 2 there in Florida. Now they're going to go back in Tampa. I don't know if they're going to sweep him, but I can see this maybe going 5 games now. I'm going to have Tampa in 5.
Yeah, I had Tampa winning in 7 originally.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think it's over in 5. It just doesn't seem like Florida has that mojo, that juice. Even when they had leads, they were playing on their heels.
Yeah.
Was never a comfortable lead. Also, Jeff won. It was a D3 at Mount Union.
Mount Union.
Must have been back up where a ball cap held a clipboard like a champ.
Okay.
Still counts. You got the ring. Still counts.
Still check.
What's your thoughts so far on Florida's goaltending in this series? Because Bobrovsky wasn't amazing, wasn't terrible. Dreger, again, he just didn't steal him a game. He was fine. Do they go tonight in game 3 or 4? Why not? If you're going to lose, give him the experience. He's your goalie of the future.
Yeah, for me, I think he might still be a bit too young to kind of throw into the fire there. I think if you're Florida, you have to still be in the mindset that hey guys, we're only 2 games down. If we take the next one, we're back in this thing, right? So I don't know if that's a game you really want to throw a night in, but I did want to get your opinion on this. Obviously, being a former goalie here, that why did they take out Bob? What was the point of that? It wasn't like he gave up 8 goals in one night. This is a guy who has playoff experience. He didn't play. Yes, Baring, he wasn't great in that game 1. I still thought he made some big saves, and showed enough that he should have got the pipes in game 2, no?
Dreger was the better goalie in the regular season. That's for sure. I do
Right.
like Bob's experience. I think he's got the ability to be a game changer. But again, Dreger was just better in the regular season, so you got to give him a chance. And I think they do go back to Dreger in game 3. But
I think so, eh?
Either or, it doesn't matter who they play in net. They're not playing up to their potential.
No. But I just feel like, especially the goaltending is so crucial in the playoffs, right? That's why you like if you see 7, 8 seed teams in the playoffs, like they usually get by their goaltending. Usually that's always the case with Montreal and Carey Price because he never has a great team in front of him, but him by himself can always get the job done, regardless if he comes off a very mediocre vanilla campaign, right? That's why I thought with Bob, at least give him 2 games, right? You know, I think 1 game with like that short a leash, I think it's just going to ruin his confidence going forward, especially if you throw him back into the fire net. It's like, guys, like I understand, like, you know, you want to go with the hot hand, but you have to let the guy, you know, just give him a shot here. Like he wasn't horrible. I didn't really agree with that. At first I thought he was hurt or something. Maybe like pre-game or after the game he was dealing with some sort of issue or injury. But when I just found out,
moves.
Yeah, I was like, okay, well, but again, if Dreger was the better goalie during the regular season, why not just start him in the playoffs? Well, why go to Bob and then give him that 1 game leash, and if he doesn't play well, then go back? I don't really like that decision by the coaching staff there. Stick with your guy.
That's Coach Q, though. He's going to be loyal to his experienced players, unless it's Keith Yandel, who's had an unreal Ironman streak, and he wanted to scratch him in game 1, which was absolutely asinine.
Crazy.
But again, from Bobrovsky's standpoint, he's been a 900 goaltender the past couple of seasons. He's making $10 million a year. It's embarrassing not to play him, but when you play him and they get beat, it's almost worse.
Yeah.
It's pick your poison, and I get it. You might like Bobrovsky a little bit from his time in Philly, but he's not the same goaltender. He's a Russian who got paid, and he's probably close to checked out. He's living in Florida. He's got his retirement planned out, and now he's just playing hockey because he's gotta.
Yeah. And I agree with that, but Florida has to kind of understand too that you kind of reap what you sow. Bobrovsky was never a guy who gave you great goaltending year in and year out. He's very hot and cold, right? And he even showed that in Columbus and Philadelphia as well before Mason kind of took over that role. So you knew what you were getting when you invested 10 million sheets, you know what I mean, to get this guy. You knew that he was going to be, bringing it every year. Like you're going to deal with some bumps in the road, and I figured to show him some confidence. It's like what Torts did with him in Columbus, right? This is your guy. Like you got to stick with him. Kind of go down, especially when you're thinking 10 million a year. You have to expect, okay, you know what? This guy can play up to a Vezina caliber of goalie, which he also showed in Philly too and Columbus, right? So that's going to be my guy. And in case the wheels completely come off, or he lets in like an 8 or 9, stinker, then you go to a guy like Dreger and say, you know what, like we kind of gave you long enough leash there. We have to kind of move on here. Otherwise, we are going to get swept, which they still very might. So we'll see.
I think they're done. I don't know. What's your thoughts on Tampa's cap situation? Because everyone's really freaking out about this. And I feel it's unnecessary. I mean, they're within the rules. They didn't break anything. Other teams have done the exact same thing.
Vegas, yeah.
They just haven't had the effectiveness or the effective player like a Kucherov come into the lineup for playoffs. It's usually an impactful player. I mean, Chicago did it with Patty Kane, but Nikita Kucherov is a whole nother level.
Yeah. Can we just touch on that for 1 second? How a guy misses the entire season and steps into playoffs, and it's like he didn't skip a beat.
3 points.
Like, how many guys can actually do that? He was out with hip surgery for the entire year, steps in, and we all know that playoffs is a different beast from the regular season. And it's like he didn't miss one stride. Like, I mean, practice is one thing. I get it. He's been skating for the past, whatever it was, month and a half. But, man, that's way different from going into a game full throttle playoffs, especially with a rivalry now that Florida and Tampa have kind of created for themselves. And right away, game 1, 2 tucks and 2 sick tucks.
And right? The Apple on points, tying goal. Just insane.
Yeah. crazy, man. It's just like, and it's like you look at John Cooper. It's like everyone has so much confidence in that guy that they just know, okay, there's not going to be any rust to really shake off here. He's going to step right in and make it immediate impact right away. And same kind of thing with Stammer too, but he's been there for so long, and people have kind of been used to him being injured and whatnot, right? But he's the same style player. He can easily, you look at last year in the bubble, he stepped right in and he got it, I forget which game it was, game 5 or 6, whatever. And first shift, he got a goal, right? So it's like, how lucky is Tampa to have these guys that they can sit out of the lineup and come right back in and make an immediate impact in that top 6 lineup. It's crazy.
Oh, you're right. Tyler in the chat says half the NBA teams stay over the cap, just win, baby. Sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes teams just run better than others. I don't know. I get it in the NBA. There's like a tax or something you got to pay extra if you go over the cap, which whatever. NBA owners aren't hurting money wise if you're running a team in that league. But there's also an ethics point where does the NHL need to crack down on this, because our team's going to start taking advantage of this more and more, where these guys aren't playing in the regular season. Maybe fans start to get pissed off. Other GMs start to get pissed off. And you're just kind of like, okay, right before the trade deadline, we're going to put our stars on LTIR for the next month and a half. Let them rest up. Let them get, do whatever they want. And we're just going to stack up come playoff time, no cap. All of a sudden, Toronto ends up with Taylor Hall, Kyle Palmieri, whomever they want, because they can, because they played the system, and because they knew that they'd be in the playoffs with or without Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner in the lineup for that last month and a half.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you actually saw Vegas was also another accomplice to that rule as well. When they were, there was a string of games there where they were only dressing 5 or 6 D-men a night. Just make room for that Pietrangelo deal, which is insane. But I'm like, how are they affording this? And I saw a line like, okay, they don't have certain players out there tonight. But that's kind of the risk you take. It can be worth it, especially when you have a team as stacked as them. But when you're thinning out your back end with guys like that, that's for 5 or 6 D-men, that's a heavy risk. I don't know if I want to live life like that, because I'd be stressed out every night, and like my GM would have to do a lot of maneuvering throughout the year to make that work. It's just, I don't know. It wouldn't be worth the risk for me, but they for those 2 teams, they keep finding a way to do it.
Who do you think is the highest paid player ever in the CFL? Is it Mike Riley? Levi?
Both, yeah. I probably say Mike Riley without a doubt. He was making upwards of $800K a year, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just taking that team salary.
If anyone else, like big time CFL, if someone just chucked massive money at someone like Flutie or something.
Well, there was Rocket Ishmael, who got drafted by the Argonauts back in the early 90s when CFL was more of a thing and fans actually paid attention to the league. They were so they actually stole him from the NFL draft and paid him like $1 million a year, or like 1.5 or something like that. But that's also when John Candy owned the team. Gretz had part of the ownership as well. So they were able to afford that contract. But he came to the CFL first before he went to the NFL, which is insane, because nowadays you wouldn't even bat an eyelash at that. If some CFL team came and say, "Oh, come over here for how would they be able to afford that?" You can't compete with millions, because every team's salary cap is like 4.8. You know what I mean? And you're looking at like a first or a second round pick. They're making well over, first round picks making, they're guaranteed like bonuses over like 20 million. So fat chance of that happening ever. But it's kind of cool to look back on that and think, oh man, that guy chose the CFL over the NFL for the first few years of his career.
What do you think it would take for, I believe it's Calgary, who's got Chuba Hubbard's rights, correct?
Yeah.
What do you think it would take for them to chuck at Chuba to say, hey, don't be a practice player in the NFL this upcoming year, or an early cut? I honestly have no clue, but just come to Calgary. Just come here, play here. What do you think it would take? Give me a number in your mind.
Number? Dude, there's no number. That's the thing. I don't know, like,
you don't think who owns, is it like Calgary Sports and Entertainment, whatever it is, if they said, hey, we're going to take some Flames money here and, we're going to drop a nice fat signing bonus. Like, I'm talking $1 million. 1.5.
That's just it. It would have to be behind closed doors. If there's some way swindle him in there that the league that doesn't find out about that. You see with certain college athletes in like D1 for those.
Well, just hire his parents as a scout or something. There's no cap on that.
Yeah, I guess, but it's saying it just it has to be very secretive. I feel, and then it has to be a very lucrative deal because you're talking about practice players in the NFL make over like starting is like bare minimum is like $100K, right, and then it just goes up from there. So a guy like that was recently just drafted, even if he's not playing, he can be thrown onto the IR. He can be thrown onto the practice roster, which right off of there, a guy of his caliber of talent would easily be making over probably $200K already. So
yeah,
and he'd probably much rather have that lifestyle than coming to the CFL and playing for 150 because you still have to look at Bo Levi's contract. He's making quarter of what the Stampeders are bringing in with their salary cap, right? Like he's making 8 something, I believe. So and even then they had to restructure his deal a little bit just because that CFL hasn't played in the past couple of years. So now he's down to like a high 6 or 7. So Chuba Hubbard would have to take less on top of that as well.
That's fair. Yeah, the salary cap definitely gets in the way. Always something you forget about. That was the thing, though, back in like junior hockey and stuff. It was whenever a team, really wanted someone. I think Portland might have gotten in trouble for it. Was just like, oh, we'll just, hire their parents on, staff, put them on staff, give them a nice couple of paychecks.
Give them a meal card, pay for their twigs throughout the year. There you go, sold.
Oh, extra sticks and gas money. That's the senior hockey special.
Housing money too.
You know what's stupid, and here's a wild thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say any team names or anything, but I got $375 a game playing, senior hockey in Saskatchewan, where if you look at guys in the coast, I think minimum's like $400. And that's obviously, you got to pay taxes on top of that. You got to pay agent fees. There's
making nothing at that point.
Wild money. Like if I was to play 2 games in a weekend, I was bringing home $850 or whatever, or not.
That's nice.
Not $850, $750, whatever it was. Like, I don't know. It's wild how things do work in the sporting world. Back to the NHL playoffs, though. Any thoughts on the Pens Isles series?
Yeah, I think, man, I still think it's going to be a close series. The Islanders, man, they still have to figure out a way to score goals. You can't score. I don't know what's going on there. And the game 1, it started to look a little bit better. And then it's like a step forward, then 2 steps back. You look at last game, too. It just goaltending's got to be a bit better, too, especially with the way that Trotz has that lineup structured. It's predicated on playing defense. So it's, whenever Islanders kind of strike first, it's miserable to play against that team because that they're having every guy come back. And it's like a puzzle. You have to try and figure them out to score goals on them. But that one goal, man, that was such a stinker that Varlamov gave up to Russ in the first period. I'm not sure if that hit like a shaft of the stick or whatever, but he just looked so dazed by that. Even when
he bounced back, though. I'll give him credit. I'll give him all the credit in the world because if you let in a brutal goal like that as a goalie, I mean, I'm just a mental midget too, but like, wow. To bounce back and only allow 1 goal the rest of the game, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Or did he allow 2? No, 1, I think. They lost 2-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what a bounce back. That's like, absolutely shanking the opening kickoff of a game.
Which I've done.
I mean, like 5-yard stinker and coming back and just, having the game of your life.
Yeah. It is a stinker, but aside from that, yeah, you're right. He did fare well for the most part, but they got their star players have to play better. I understand that Anders Lee's out of the lineup, and he's a very important piece of that lineup, especially as one of the more underrated centers in the league. But guys like Barzal, man, like you're looked at as like a top 5 player on most nights when he's playing to the level of his talent, right? And then you have guys like Brock Nelson who's really not pulling his weight. Jordan Eberle, say what you want about him, but he's still an important piece. Bo Philly, they have some pretty good players on that team, and they're just like, I don't know where they're at. Barzal is just,
they've got so many above average players. It's not even funny. The thing is they're not good goal scorers. They're just above average. They're that $4 or $5 million range where you're handcuffed. You can't go spend a crazy amount. You can only bring in your Kyle Palmieri's, your Travis Zajaks. Aside from that,
who's done nothing, by the way. Zajac has been a complete ghost on that team. And that's the thing. You bring a guy like Palmieri where He's got a very underrated shot. That's a shoot first guy you have on your team now. They're kind of similar boat as the Flyers, where they have so many pass first guys. And even notice on their power play, you're waiting for them to just shoot the damn puck. Like you can only play catch so much. It's like, guys, put the puck on net. Like you're not going to score unless you shoot it. So it's Barzal, and you saw towards the end of the year when Barzal got scratched because he wasn't playing that 200-foot game that Trotz expects you to play, and he expects that even from your first line and fourth line guy, he expects that from everybody, right? And he has to really step it up because he's not been playing well lately.
What's it with Pittsburgh Penguins goaltenders and their glove hands? Because Tristan Jarry has been beat 5 times glove side. Remember when Matt Murray had his struggles in Pittsburgh? Glove side all day, baby. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something in the water. Maybe it's something with the goalie coach. I don't even know who that is, but I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. But come on, everything glove side on Jarry? I don't know. Something's going on.
They had to get back to the drawing board there, and you're right. Even back to the days of Marc-Andre Fleury when he had his struggles back in their 2010, 2011. Especially remember the series against the Flyers when every game was like a 12-goal game. It was just like whoever had the puck last was going to score. I remember there was a game the Flyers were down 3-0, ended up being 8-5 for the Flyers. Like that was the final score, and Briz was in the Flyers net. Remember that? Oh my god, man! He made some.
Those are some of my favorite series ever, though. Do you remember those classic Giroux-Crosby battles?
Oh, yeah.
They hated each other, and I loved it.
Dude,
I was glued.
That opening shift where he buried him off the faceoff, and then he went down the opposite end, just
scored,
tucked one bar down. Yeah, but obviously that's the Drew of old. We're not going to get that again, but yeah. It's definitely that nice.
I didn't even mention we do have a guest coming on here. Pete got back to me. So, Pete Tucci hosts Pete's Power Plays. He's going to hop on in probably 10 minutes or so, whatever. We'll talk Flyers with him. We'll talk playoffs. Maybe he'll give us a client bet for tonight. Just be nice. We'll pump up his tires. Yeah. I don't know. You're an athlete, so maybe you have it, because I didn't do any of it when I was playing, but the whole gambling aspects popped off recently. So hockey wise, that's kind of where I'll dabble a little bit. But have you seen how big it's getting? All these, sports gambling places in the States are blowing up.
I didn't realize how big it was. So I have a few friends who do it, and I'm still kind of confused. It's very complex for me to kind of comprehend.
100%.
But it's like you look at it's like everything, right? It's like block shots is even on there. Like just the weirdest stats can be bet on. I'm like, what? Like how is that? Like more checks for the other team. It's just like who's gonna get more checks? Like things like that you wouldn't really think about are on there, and you can bet on it. The only thing I kind of understand is the puck line is you pick a team to win by 2, and that's pretty much all I get. So and I have done it in the past through Bet 365. And it's only on games where I know it's going to be a for sure lock. Like if the Avalanche are playing the Wings one night, I'm like, hey, they're obviously going to get puck line on them. You're going to hammer that.
Also, shout out mybookie.ag through 12 Ounce Sports. Use the promo code 120Z Sports. They'll hook you up if you are deciding to dabble in that. No, Pete's unreal. And here's a crazy stat for you. Is this NHL season? I'm fully ballparking. It's not an official stat. I think he's up 70 units. Or 70 or 80, something wild. So essentially, if you were to put $100 on every bet that he puts out, you'd be up $7,000.
Wow,
it's insane. But this is what he does, right?
Yeah.
He's a genius. He's a whiz with this stuff. He's
full-time gig, eh?
He's doing the research all the time. So he's unreal. We'll just pump up that client there. I know he charges clients, but again, hey, pay for it if you're going to make money. I'm not consistent enough. I'll forget to put in bets anytime I'm thinking. I'm wow, I should bet the Oilers tonight. I'll just sleep on it. I'll forget, and I'll be should have won.
Yeah, and the thing is too is that even if I get on here, I'll ride the wave until I lose one bad. So if I invest $300 in a game and it just goes completely the opposite direction, that'll be enough to turn me off, or I won't bet again for years.
Exactly. I'll take 2 weeks off and no problem if I'm losing it. But again, it'll be Augusta or the Masters, and I'm just locked in. I'm I got money on this. This is fun.
Yeah. March Madness.
So it will be interesting. Let's rip around to some of the other series, though. We still got Boston, Washington to talk about. Carolina, Nashville. I don't know. Do you got anything to say on that? That's probably one of the most boring series, other than Carolina's fans are electric.
Honestly, and we haven't really talked about it yet. Is that the fans coming back? And it's like the Florida and Tampa series, like that would have popped off either way. But the fans coming back in just added that extra shot of energy that everyone needed to just kind of pump that series off the rails completely, right? And even for the players on the ice, like skating a little bit harder, finishing their checks because they haven't had fans the entire year, and now you have that in the building. It's like you're gonna give a little more on each and every shift. I feel right, and Carolina was a great example because they had what, like 12,000 roll in or something like
Yeah,
that.
12, something like that.
And look, for me at first when they're showing like certain camera angles because obviously they want to make it seem like it's sold out. I was like, man, like this game is like. I was like texting like, dude, like all my friends, like, you watching this right now? Like Kane's getting sold out. Like, it's like, no, it's at like 12,000, and then you start to see some empty seats. The more you kind of like look into it, but man, if even just watching, like my team's not even in the playoffs, and I was amped up, man, just watching that game, just because like we've just been like robbed of, fans all season, including last year in the bubble. That it was so nice seeing them back, and just that extra just kind of juice and energy that they bring in the game. Like, they are crucial, and they're just as important to the game itself. So
Fans really make sports.
way better.
It's that difference between, just a activity and a true sport where, if you've got 30,000 people in Mosaic Stadium, there's nothing like it. 100,000 people watching a Michigan football game. There's nothing like it. 20,000 people packed into the Vegas arena. There's nothing like it.
They make a difference.
That's what makes sports so special.
Exactly. Especially when you have villains and rats on the ice like Marchand. Like the Boo Birds need to let him hear it because, in that game one, like there's no fans. I was yelling at the TV. I'm like, this guy needs to get a taste of his own medicine. Like, I'm surprised. Like, why isn't Chara cross-checking him in the teeth yet? So it's nice to hear the fans getting in his, those
Washington has like 6,000 or something, or 7,000. They're limited, but I mean, they're still fans.
Still
it's just not packed.
Still effective.
Yeah, I think come the next round, like game 5 back in Washington, they're going to up it to like 13, 14,000. It's doubled, I think.
Oh, beautiful.
It'll be rocking. I love it. While we're speaking, actually, no, we'll get to fans in Canada in a little bit. Quick thoughts: Washington, Boston series. I mean, it's tied up at 1-1. I don't know what your prediction was for the series, but I mean, are you sticking with it? What are you liking right now?
Well, I would have said Washington in 5, honestly, until Voracek, whatever his name is. I was gonna say Voracek from the Flyers, but he's got a similar last name to him. The goaltender for Washington, Vanacek. There we go. And then he went down with a fluke of an injury off that goal from Jake DeBrusk in game 1. And then, not that I don't like Craig Anderson. I think he's still competent as a goaltender. But, man, you know what? As nice as that goal was in overtime, and you can kind of touch on this better than I can, I felt like any goal, like not most goaltenders, but any, top 15 goaltender would have made that cross-crease save. He looked a little late getting there. In my opinion,
you know what? It's a tough one.
For him.
I love Craig Anderson. I find it so hard to rip on him. Yes, maybe he could have had it, should have had it. Was it a longer pass? Yeah. Is he as mobile as he was 10 years ago? Not a chance. But that 2-on-1 save he made at the end of the third period, that makes up for it in my mind. That should have been in the back of the net.
Yeah.
That's an A+ save. They didn't deserve to get to overtime. Yeah. They didn't at all. I mean, you allow a 2-on-1 20 seconds after Boston ties the game, and your goaltender has to bail you out. You got to wake up. I mean, smell it and get up.
And on top of that, right now, I don't really know who their backup right now at this moment is. Is that Samsonov? Is he going to come back in?
It was Phoenix Copley. For game 1, he was their third. I think Samsonov is good to go. I don't know if he was on the bench in the last game. Yeah. I have a feeling they'll go to him in game 3.
You have to. Again, it's not like I don't like Craig Anderson. I think he's a great goaltender, but
you hate him.
No, he's 41, man. Give this guy a break. You know what? It's okay. So that choice makes sense because he is 41, and even if he is your guy going forward, play him the next game. Play him game 5. Right, but game 4. But give him a break a little bit. He is getting a little long in the tooth here. Play Samsonov, and I mean, unless Samsonov just completely like shuts out Boston, then that's kind of the guy you have to kind of ride with. But yeah, give him a little break, man. He's 41. You can't expect a guy of that age to play the entire series. That's why I'm still kind of worried a little bit about Edmonton playing against Winnipeg right now. Because as good as Mike Smith has been, if they get off to like an 0-2 start where he gets a little bit shaky because he is very hot and cold at times, I mean, are you going to turn to Koskinen? Do you want to go down that route, or are you just going to ride him out the entire way? You might have to do that too because Koskinen has been super shaky this year.
That's a whole nother beast, the Oilers series. And before, I guess, let's Vegas, Minnesota. I mean,
Vegas, 100%.
They suck at scoring. But I mean, Cam Talbot was off in game 2. That's the Cam Talbot to expect. He's going to be sick one game, and the next game he's going to be leaky.
Yeah, he's very hot. Like I say this about a lot of goalies that they're hot and cold, but I thought he played above his potential in game 1. I was
he played out of the world in game 1.
Exactly. He had 40 saves, and I'm like, all right, he's not going to keep that kind of play up every game. Like, let's be honest. Like on paper and even on ice, Vegas has a way better team than Minnesota. And as much as I want to see the Wild win, because I'm all about the underdog and upsets, there's no way that they're going to win that series. Let's be honest here.
I hope not. I can't. I mean, I've chirped Minnesota and Minnesota Wild fans for the past 6 months. I don't think I can take it if they win. I don't know. No. There's no way we're going to be able to put up with that.
The last thing to touch on that, how good has your boy Fleury been? Man, he has been great so far.
Here's a crazy thing. Hold up. There was a tweet from Trade Deadline. Vegas was offering teams a second-round pick to take Marc-Andre Fleury, plus they were going to eat half of his salary cap.
I would have been all over that.
Marc-Andre Fleury for $3.5 million.
Yeah.
Or maybe this was last year. Yeah, this was last year. This is 2020. Not this
trade. Right after they signed Leonard, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
$3.5 million for Marc-Andre Fleury. Some team could have had him.
Insane.
Whoa. Calgary spent what, $5-6 million a year on Markstrom?
I think that's what Philly spent on Elliott for 2 years.
Ottawa set how much on Matt Murray? I don't know. You're just insane to think Pittsburgh wouldn't make room for $3.5 million of Marc-Andre Fleury. They value that second, I don't even know. I mean, what they would have to give up, or really a prospect, I think is what Vegas was looking for. But I mean, you get an extra draft pick and you get a number 1 and legit one of the best goalies in the league.
Well, and I can understand, but man, this is the thing that drives me nuts. And I don't want to beat the hell out of this topic because I know we have other things to get onto, but you'll get years past in like the Penn series back maybe, I don't know, 2012, let's just say from 2011 to 2014, where they finally just said, okay, enough. Like Fleury's been way too leaky in the playoffs for us to kind of revive his career. Maybe he needs a change of scenery right now. And he goes to Vegas, absolutely just blows the doors off that first year. Like, he was by far their MVP. It wasn't even close. He was the best player on the ice. And then not even a year, maybe another year down the road, they bring in a guy like Rob Leonard, and then change of coaching staff. They bring in Peter DeBoer, whoever it was, and then let Gerard Gallant go, right? And all of a sudden he was number 2 because they extended him. It's like, what has this guy done to not show you that he's the guy? Like he wasn't leaky. I thought he was playing well up until that point, and here he is again proving his case after teams thought he was done 3 or 4 times. He's lived up to the expectations that he's still a top 5 goalie in the league, in my opinion, because he knows when. There you go. You know what I mean? And if I knew that the Flyers were going to have the year that they had, especially between the pipes, I would have been all over that guy in the offseason. Even, you know what? Scratch that. Even if Carter Hart was still playing well, I would have got rid of Elliott a million years ago for a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury. Because what a guy to learn from, especially if you're Hart, a future Hall of Famer. Right, and he's still playing at that level at whatever age he is. What is he, in his mid-30s? The guy's still in his prime.
Now we're going to get to Pete here in a second. I just got to get your thoughts on Colorado St. Louis quick. Do you think St. Louis has a chance? Yes or no?
Hell no. Colorado and 5.
Oh, breaking my heart. All right, let's bring on the man here because we pumped his tires a little earlier. And we're going to bring him on. He's the gambling guru. It's Philly Pete Catches Show. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 12-ounce sports. Pete's Power Plays. Pete Tucci joins the show. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, what's going on, man? Glad to be a part of this show. How's everyone? How you guys doing?
Doing good, doing good. Meds is a huge Flyers guy too, so I figured you guys
There we
can
go.
talk out the season
Cool.
struggles right now
Cool, man.
because, oof, I mean, it's a year to forget.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough time to even cover that topic because there's a plethora of issues that we'd have to go over.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You start easily with the defense and the goaltending for sure.
Yeah.
That was a tough stretch during the course of this season to even watch. I mean, coming as a fan as well is a little difficult. And I actually brought on board Jim Jackson a couple of times during my show and talked about the Flyers and the difficulties we had this season. I mean, earlier on in the season, we thought that, defense obviously, and then, give Carter Hart a little bit of a chance. It didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Not what we expected from him this year. A lot of pressure, could it be? Maybe. Defense obviously isn't there either. It's just something to address, I think, in the offseason. I mean, our we have a lot of prospects, great prospects too in the future to look ahead to. Obviously, Tyson Forster and
Morgan
Cam
Frost, Cam York,
and York, and yeah, exactly, and a couple to look ahead to. But this it all comes down to this defense and goaltending, and it was just very kind of ugly as a fan to watch, and ranking dead last in goals against, and bottom 3 overall too in terms of that. So it's something we got to look ahead to in the next season.
Yeah, honestly, it's bad, man. I feel like if you're to ask any, like us, any diehard Flyers fan, and the brand of hockey that they played over the past, let's just say past 4 or 5 seasons. Like last year, I didn't mind their style of play, but they need another banger out there. And I'm not talking about a guy who rolls in and fights everyone, but they need guys that finish their checks. I see, other than Scott Laughton, I see guys like, Konechny maybe every once in a while. That guy's like 5'10", $165. He's not gonna make that much of an impact. And you see guys like Nolan Patrick, Claude Giroux, right? And just all these guys, Kevin Hayes, use that frame a little bit. He might not be the fastest here, but he was another guy where I would have given him a D+. If I was to grade anyone as one of the worst players, it would have been him. From going from the Swiss Army knife that he was last year in all 3 phases, from being great on the penalty kill and puck protection, which is kind of his bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
Where was he? He was horrible this year. He was awful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, I just think the fact that Kevin Hayes was brought on this team definitely helped us out a little bit in terms of, veteran, and, he was good. I mean, he was honestly good. But TK, on the other hand, I just think that he's another guy that I think he needs to step up too.
Yeah.
He tried to instigate, and, I just think that he needs to kind of put his words where his mouth is, and of course next season, and see what he can do. Voracek's another guy. He's getting older.
You can do without him.
We could do without Voracek.
JVR too.
Yeah, JVR. I mean, we could get rid of him. Gostisbehere is going to be on his way out as well, from what I'm hearing too. So I mean, they got a lot of holes to fill. I mean, this team is not going to be in contention anytime soon. I mean, I like what we have with these future stars coming up for us. It's going to be a big help. But again, Gustafsson, I mean, he was here for a rental, and then he was gone. I mean, I thought that was a joke of an acquisition.
That experiment was horrible.
It was absolutely terrible.
Fuck.
I don't know. This team's in shambles, man. AV has a lot of work to do this all season.
Yeah.
Pete, I got to jump in here. We got to talk betting pucks. I know you got a show in 10 minutes, so we'll let you go in 5. But I mean, what have you liked trend-wise so far in these playoffs? Obviously, Vegas, they're going to lock it down defensively. Everyone knows that. The lines drop. But I mean, is there any leans right now? You don't have to give out any client plays on the show, although we wouldn't mind it. But, what are you leaning towards Oilers, Jets tonight as well? And what have you liked so far in the playoffs?
Listen, man, I'm excited for the North Division to finally start up their playoffs tonight. Edmonton and the Jets. A lot of people are overestimating the Jets. I think it's going to be a closer series than a lot of people think. I do think Edmonton will walk away with that series. You saw what happened last season, of course. They got upset in that 5-12 series, kind of like a college basketball. That's how the upsets work around here. But, Oilers, I know that's your squad, man. I know you're looking forward to seeing them advance and survive in advance, as I like to say. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Edmonton can do after getting embarrassed, obviously, last season. I think that they have a lot on their head, and I think they can walk away with Game 1 tonight They're also minus 150 on the money line here tonight. So, it's not bad. I do like Edmonton. It's tough to judge in a game one. Obviously, we know that, but a lot of unders have been trending very, very well as of late. We saw, first off, we saw the Islanders and Penguins go over on Sunday, which I was on the under. I didn't expect that much of a high-scoring affair. And of course, the Panthers series, I'm expecting goals that entire series. I mean, Panthers. I hate to say it, but this team's on their way out. I think after that game one, they had the crowd ready. That goal getting disallowed was kind of a joke to me. But hey, I'm not a referee. I think their season's over soon enough. I hate to say it. Tampa is deadly good. They are very, very good. Kucherov and Stamkos coming back. Obviously, they're like, let's go. We're already the reigning defending champions. I mean, let's go, man. People are knocking us out against the Panthers. Like, come on, really? But they're looking good, man. Tampa's looking really strong right now. I think the Hurricanes should demolish Nashville tonight as well. Very, very high money line tonight. I had minus 175 last night. They're at minus 190 now. So it's obviously a lot of money is going in that direction. But when it comes to the over-unders, like I said, unders last night, all 3 games, all 3 unders. A lot of defense, obviously a lot of change-ups in game 2. Vegas, I expected a little zigzag theory. Obviously, the Capitals Bruins the other night, game 1 and went under, game 2 went over. Same with the Wild. I thought, hey, listen, you know what? We went well under in game 1. Game 2, well, maybe Vegas comes out in the first period and gets us 2 goals to start the first period. But Cam Talbot, man, he's been on his feet and helping
hanging
out
by a thread.
Yeah, man. Minnesota's been playing really, really well, and now they go to Minnesota 1-1, and I like that series too. They're going to keep Vegas sticking around for a little while. But tonight, we have 4 games on the menu tonight. I'm not counting the Vancouver Calgary game. So
Why not?
Hey, I had Vancouver yesterday on the money line. Obviously, it was their last home game of the season. I expect that. I think Calgary wins this game tonight. Boston and the Caps. I mean, Boston has a good little momentum there. They moved up to minus 175 from minus 160, so a little bit of money heading in that direction. I do lean Boston. You're at home. Their fans are back as well, so they're ready to rock. Carolina, I think, take care of business as well. I think they go up 2-0. Their fans back as well. And Nashville's not ready for this type of competition, I don't think. Edmonton, I think they walk away. I think it's going to be close, but I think Edmonton does walk away. And then Colorado, dude. Colorado is my favorite to win, obviously. I got them at 9-1 in the beginning of the season to win the Cup. And now they dropped to like 3 or 2-1. But don't leave the Blues out. Maybe they're playing Gloria in the background, get them pumped up for game 2. And, maybe a puck line plus 1.5 for St. Louis looks pretty tempting here tonight. But Colorado is just deadly good, just like Carolina. I think these 2 teams are set for the Cup Finals. That's what I like. I like Carolina and Colorado to face each other in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Wow.
And that's how I'm feeling.
Pete, buddy, hey, we appreciate you hopping on here. I know you got a show in 5 minutes, so we're going to let you go. Appreciate you hopping on, talking, betting. Maybe we'll have to get you on for like a second-round preview or something like that.
Yeah,
appreciate it,
good.
man.
Absolutely.
All right, dude. Take her easy.
All right.
Take care. See you guys.
Everybody.
Right there.
Can we just touch
Philly
on that
Pete.
really quick? We had to start, yeah. When you touched on the Calgary Vancouver game, I completely forgot that there's still games going on that are completely meaningless. Do you not think the NHL, like Bevan, should just say, you know what, guys, let's wrap this up? Like, I'm going to knock on wood before I even say this. Like, you don't want anyone getting hurt. Like, what happens if Bo Horvath goes into the wall and you kind of twist his knee the wrong way, right? And, like, all of a sudden, boom, torn ACL, done for the year, and he spent the entire offseason rehabbing that over a game that they didn't even really need to play.
It's all because they have a terrible formula for the draft lottery. That's the only reason why. And it pisses me off to no end. I'll never get over it. But you should not be trying to tank just to get a better draft pick. They got to figure out a new way. And I don't know. That's my spiel. I'll talk about it for half an hour. Already, 9:56. We got to talk quick soccer here because, hey, Sunderland's got a big game. Everyone knows that's my club, Sunderland till I die. You're a Portugal guy. So, hey, I mean, fill us in on the championship.
Oh, man. Well, let's just say this has been a long time coming, buddy. We haven't won the championship there. And listen, like, this is a big deal for me because I've been a Sporting fan. Like, since I was like 5 years old. Like I didn't have a choice. Like my dad came out from his grandfather from being like a Sporting fan. I come from a full household of Sporting fans, and that league has been overtaken by teams like Benfica, who are like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NHL. I can't take them or their fan base. They can all go to hell. Porto as well. Like,
Porto.
Between those two teams, they've been winning the championships back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes they win it three times in a row. Sporting hasn't even sniffed it. And some years they finished fourth and fifth. I'm like, you can't even consider Sporting in that top three echelon of teams in Portugal anymore, right? And this year, they fired their old regime, bring in a new fresh face, new coaching staff, new head coach, who was the coach for Famalicão a few years back, which is a newly promoted team in Portugal. He comes on, kind of changes the whole structure of the team. We make it a bit more defensive anyway. We go in 34 games because they actually lost the other day to Benfica, but it doesn't matter because they won the championship, all right? Let me list a little stats here for you. They had 25 wins, okay? 25 wins, 7 draws, 0 losses, and only gave up 15 goals.
That's wild.
That's a hell of a stat to win the championship in 34 games, all right? And I know that they just lost, but they don't give a shit. They were partying for the past 3 days. They're not walking in.
You're champs.
Exactly. We won the chip. We have nothing to play for. They can lose every game, whatever's left, like 2 or 3 games. Lose all of them. I don't give a shit. We won the championship, first time in 19 years. If they don't win another one again for 10 years, whatever. I'm fine with it. I just need to get that one off my back because it's been way too long.
That's unreal. Hey, congrats to you as a fan. Got to tip your cap there. Yeah. We got to get out of here, though. I mean, give me what's the score tonight? Oilers Jets.
5-2 Oilers.
Wow, I love it. I'm going to go 4-2 Oilers.
Ooh,
I think that's it. Hey, we got to get out here, though. I mean, shout out Philly Pete for hopping on here. Halftime, Meds, Jans. Hope your midweek's going good. Live on 12 Ounce Sports. Shout out Jeff Beck there. Zach Medeiros, Cody Jansen with you. Until next week, everyone. See you later.
Take care, guys.